Hello everybody. These next couple of videos are going to be videos of encouragement to you. Previous to this, I had made videos about my view of the universe, but these next three, I want to encourage you to meet online or in Zoom or in person. I'm an old guy, so I still like to meet in person. Another video will be on encouraging you to continue to talk to God. Pray, chat, however you want to think of it, meditate. And the last one will be on encouraging you to consider the value of short memorized phrases. So, encouraging you to meet. Have you ever filled out a U.S. Census form that asks you your religious affiliation? It'll say religious affiliation, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist, Confucian, Native American, other, and none of the above. None of the above. There are so many people these days checking that box, none of the above, N-O-N-E, that the religious literature is referring to them as the nuns. That's what we are, the nuns. They're the people for who they still feel there is a spiritual element to the universe, that there is more to the universe than what we just see around here. But for whom church just doesn't trip their trigger. They don't feel fulfilled when they go to a Sunday morning service. They don't feel a thrill. And while the people there may offer comfort, that Sunday morning service itself doesn't bring them comfort. So they stop going to church. They want to be spiritual, but not religious. But there's a problem with that. And that is that church is the only place in our society where it's okay to talk about spiritual things. We can't do it sitting in the bleachers at our kids' basketball game. We can't do it while we're playing in the volleyball league. There's no other place for us to do that. I don't have a place in our town where there's no building with a sign outside that says Church of the Spiritual but not religious. There's no building that says Philosophy Club. So church is the place. Well, church wasn't completely fulfilling our lives either. So we started a discussion group. I think we met every other week. This is back in the 80s. We used magazine articles and we used books as discussion starters, not to tell us what to believe, but to keep our spiritual juices flowing and just to keep the discussion going in the group. One of the books we used by it was The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck. Another book that was very popular because it filled a lot of sessions, a lot of our meeting times, so we didn't have to go hunting around for magazine articles. The book was called, you can still buy it, Devotional Classics. 52 weeks of the year, short 2 to 4 page excerpts from writings that the mystics had done. Now the editors are Foster and Smith. Devotional Classics, Foster and Smith. These writings that they chose are not from the theologians. In any religion, there are theologians, and they do a lot of thinking about religion. Their writing tends to be very clear and logical. And then there are the mystics. They don't think so much as they try to experience God. Thinking about, experiencing with. These writings are more descriptive of having an experience with a mystery. So the writing might not be as logical, won't be as well thought out. How do you write about having an experience with a mystery? But we went through some of those writings. People would choose various ones. There's 52 readings, and we maybe barely got through half of them. And I'm not telling you this in these titles so that you go out and get those. No, I'm telling you this so that you are encouraged to find your way, just as we had to find our way. And it's important that we continue having these discussions of spiritual but not religious. Continue inviting people into our lives to stimulate our own spiritual thinking, our thinking on spiritual topics, our thinking about how much does God love us? In what way does God love us? Keep thinking, not every moment of every day, but once in a while. Once every 2 weeks we think about it. Bicyclists do that. They get together every week and have a ride, and they talk about pedals and air pressure and bike routes. My sister's a bowler. They talk about bowling shoes and bowling balls. My friend is a fisherman. They talk about baits and jigs and lures and even the kind of fishing line that they'll use. It's important to talk about and share these ideas, because if we don't, spiritual but not religious, if we don't nurture that spiritual, if we don't water and tend to it like a garden, then our spiritual but not religious becomes but not religious. Now, I'm not saying you have to use the books that we used. Here's a newer one. This is Love Wins by Rob Bell. This is from this century, in fact. This is well thought out. This would be a theologian. One more in a contemplative vein would be Richard Rohr. He's got a couple out on contemplative prayer. One in a political vein is Jim Wallace. These are all liberal writers. Here's another one. It's a book I found on Amazon, Stupid Shit I Heard in Church. Every chapter is a new thing. It'd be a hoot to read that. Every week you go through a new chapter and have some laughs and share your thoughts about what you really think about that. You could use these videos as discussion starters. Not that people need to agree with me, but that it would spur their thinking. Use your house. Make certain you bring food. Brownies are always popular. Use the public room at the library. You can do that. Or you could use a church. Not the Sunday mornings, okay? But get acquainted with a pastor in a church. Let him know that you're spiritually hungry. Meet with her every once in a while. Show that you are valuable and have things to offer. My friend John, who has since passed away, retired, had time on his hands, started hanging around a church, and he learned how to bake. When he went to chat with the pastor, he might have taken in sticky buns. When he went to meet with the discussion group, he might have taken in fresh baked cookies. When he went to volunteer with their food distribution program, he might have taken in cupcakes. He made himself be welcome, even though some of his ideas might have been a little out there and they hadn't thought of them yet. My in here was music. You might want to join the group that sings at nursing homes. Even if you can't sing, that's okay. Sit with the nursing home residents. Help them each find the next page for the next song that the singers are going to sing. Be willing to chat with the residents, visit with them, put a hand on their shoulder. Touch is so important. If there's a discussion group, go to it, take some cookies. If there's not a discussion group, ask the pastor, I've been reading this book, Love Wins. Do you suppose I could put together a group that we could discuss this book with? Or a different book if you like. Now, not every church will welcome you. So here's a couple that might. The United Church of Christ is generally, as a denomination, pretty open in their thinking. Not all Lutheran churches, but the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America, ELCA, is pretty open in its thinking as a denomination. Not all Methodists and not all Presbyterian churches, but the United Methodist Church and the United Presbyterian Church are pretty open in their thinking. Episcopal and Catholic churches, and while their masses are very similar and very rigid, that's okay, because you're not going to their Sunday morning service. You want a denomination that's open to thinking. And you'd find, I think, that the many Catholic churches and many Episcopal churches are open to thinking. Now, all this depends on the pastor that's in charge of the church. So don't be disappointed if you find a more conservative pastor. But those denominations in general are more open in their thinking. So, if a ready-made religious experience is not your cup of tea, well, hats off to you. But then you've got a rough road to hoe. You've got to assemble something on your own. And I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to use the Zoom or Meetup or Facebook. Get some people together. Have those discussions. Get people in who can spur your own thinking. I think you'll have a good time, and I wish you only the best.